Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of ZB's Horsepower Talk. As always, I'm ZB, Zach Brown, and joining with me, as always, is former 410 Sprint Car Crew Chief Mechanic, my dad, Jeff Brown. Memorial Day week is here. We got the Coca-Cola 600 and Indy 500 stuff to go over, recapping all the action that happened, the All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro, and all the Sprint Car action for this past week, NHRA, and let's talk about the IndyCar Indy 500 itself, all the practices, all the qualifying, lots of stuff has happened in Indianapolis, so a lot to go over here. Let's kick it off like we always do with NASCAR. Joey Logano wins the All-Star race. There's actually two beatdowns that happened in this race. So you've got the Joey Logano beatdown, and then you had Ricky Stenhouse beating the hell out of Kyle Busch. And Ricky Stenhouse Sr. actually got involved and tried to beat the hell out of Kyle Busch. So that was probably the most exciting part of the All-Star race. Big news in the All-Star race was that Kyle Larson was able to make it after the Indy qualifying, get there and run a top 5 at North Wilkesboro, which was pretty incredible, actually starting dead last. So, Wilkesboro, it was a boring race, but I think it was more of the format that really was, and they kind of failed on the tires. They expected it to fall off more than it did. Nighttime probably played a big factor in that. That was a big reason why the tires didn't fall off like they did. But it's still cool to see Wilkesboro back in action.
Yeah, it was not. They did a beautiful job on the repave, and that gets through a winter cycle there. In the sort of the foothills there of North Carolina, it's going to help the surface. But yeah, they did the tire test on those softer compound tires, and I think it was during the heat of the day, and they were really dropping off. And when it got cool, it was stupid. There was no point of putting the other tires on. Joey Logano led 199 of the 200 laps. It was a complete snooze fest, to be quite honest. So it was, just another product of NASCAR's short track package with this car, and especially on a repave, just does not make good racing.
No, and there were multiple grooves that you could run, but passing did not happen. They were running side by side, but nobody could really clear anybody except Larson. He was the fastest car until he got up to third, and then the car just died.
Then he burned up his stuff.
Yeah, and it didn't really matter about which tire compound you had on. It didn't really make that much of a difference, especially nighttime, cool temperatures. There was no sun on the track because nighttime. So it wasn't what they expected to do. It was nice to see them try something different. I mean, you can't just keep doing the same thing expecting a different result, obviously. So they tried something different. It didn't work out, but it was for the All-Star race. So I don't know. It didn't really feel like an All-Star race when you're watching it. It's just like, oh, this is kind of it was so fast. It happened so freaking fast. Like, I feel like 200 laps was not enough for Wilkesboro to maybe add another 50 lap, like a 50 lap shootout at the end or something.
Yeah, well, it's only just a little over 100 miles there. So they need to do something. They need to make them have green flag pit stops. Something to really shake up the order. They used to run small segments, invert the field, do different things like that. I mean, I like the idea of the two compounds. If you're going to do that, everybody has to run both of them throughout the race at some point, or because their only requirement is you have to run the red softer compound. Well, Logano left them on the whole race. They had two sets, and he changed them one time, and
yeah, there was just no fall off, and if you were in the clean air, nobody's going to get to.
Yeah, I mean they fell off, but they were still faster than the primary tire.
Now I will say I think Wilkesboro would make a way better points race than All-Star race, being the fact that the field would be double the size that we saw. You would get into lap traffic.
Yeah,
and we've seen that in sprint car racing. It's a product of how can you get through lap traffic? How much will that shake things up? That would definitely change things, and they said Wilkesboro's the next All-Star race, at least for next year as well. They need to add a points race for it too. I'd say screw it. You have a points race right before it, and then you go into the All-Star race, and you have 2 weeks in Wilkesboro. I think that would be huge for them, and you can get rid of some of these other tracks. You can get rid of the Roval. That's a big one that the drivers really want to get rid of. They're pretty much tired of it. I mean, Denny Hamlin's really outspoken on it. Dale Jr. too. I would say just go back to Charlotte and have another mile and a half and have 2 Charlotte races, of course. But they got to add Wilkesboro to the point schedule. I think that would be way better racing. with a full field and probably a 400 lap race. I think that would be pretty exciting up there. Shoot, with that track, as fast as they were getting around it, you can make it a 500 lap race, and it really would be going pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean they're getting around that faster than
18 seconds.
Than they do at Martinsville at a half-mile track. So that's it's a quick track. It's a good size, and like I said, the new surface just wasn't going to make good racing.
They did do a good job on this repavement. At the fact they left the bumps and the stuff in the track to give it its
a little character.
And nostalgic feel, and so they did a good job on that. You give it another year, I bet it'll be different racing again next year because the way that the weather's going to hit up there in a year, it's going to change it tremendously.
Like up there for that, so it's.
Real quick before we get into the main thing that happened at the after the race, Corey Heim wins the truck race after a monsoon washed out their race. I have never seen. Did you see him swimming in the water? That's what I mean. They were literally diving.
You say you've never seen it till maybe this weekend.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that in a minute. But that I think it was a pit road sign or something was clogging.
It was 2 feet deep.
I think a pit road sign was clogging the drain that was there. So I think that was a reason why it wasn't draining so well. They said the parking lots were just washed out. They had to get 900 tons of gravel brought in overnight from one of the local quarries. And they spent so much money
for fixing it for the next day.
And it looked great. You wouldn't know that it rained like that the day before. That was insane. That is typical mountain rain right there. Going to App State, I have seen that in just like parking lots before. Never had.
It looked like the Boone Mall parking lot when it rained.
Yeah. that was crazy. But yeah, Corey Heim gets away. I knew I should have picked Corey Heim. Did you pick Corey Heim on that one?
No,
I don't remember who you picked on your truck race.
I picked Nick Sanchez.
Okay. And I think I had Christian Eckes, so I didn't get that one right. All right, so the main headliner that happened at Wilkesboro was obviously there was a dispute between Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch, and I can see both sides of this. So Kyle thought Ricky got into him, and Kyle gets pissed off, and it's lap 2, and he probably should know better than to act out after lap 2. But he wrecks Stenhouse, and Stenhouse gets taken out of the race. What Stenhouse did on the first freaking corner was he dove it into the middle and made it 3 wide. And I mean, it was a bogus move.
I don't see Stenhouse did anything wrong.
Well, I think it was more.
It's the All-Star race.
Yeah, well, it was at the very beginning. I don't think you need to dive in right there. I think you should probably have felt out the track a little bit more. But he didn't get into Kyle, and Kyle thought he did. Stenhouse waited for him at the trailer when he got there. They exchanged words, and then Stenhouse said, "Screw it," right hook to the face. And then chaos ensued. Then you have a freaking offensive lineman from the NFL look like was just pushing everybody out of the way from the trailers to get out. I'm like, oh my God, that guy's massive. And he probably was a lineman or something in at least college football. That's where a lot of these guys were.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't pick a fight with that guy. Stenhouse swears that he's going to wreck Kyle Busch at Charlotte. Maybe. I don't buy it. You probably wouldn't tell him you're going to wreck him until you actually get into the track. But unless Kyle just wrecks him.
It's too fast. Even Stenhouse,
I mean, they both could be racing. They both could be racing about the same area as each other because they both suck.
Pretty much, yeah.
Kyle even admitted the car sucks. And now Childress came out today. He said if Stenhouse wrecks Kyle at Charlotte, he's like, I'm going to whip his ass. And he's like, I'm an old man now. I don't fight clean like I used to. So that's kind of an old school feeling you get from Wilkesboro. Tempers flaring. The Stenhouse.
I do disagree and fining Stenhouse $75,000. You know what?
That's what I was about to say. He's got
that was huge media for NASCAR. That was freaking free publicity. They should have gave him money for doing that.
Yeah, it was over. Nobody knew who won the race at that point, and Joey Logano was on Dale Jr.'s podcast this week, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't even know who won the race." And obviously, Joey won, and it said it violated the code of conduct. I'm like, come on now. I mean, it's freaking NASCAR.
Yeah,
you're
technically, but they should. Now, his dad should not have been involved in it.
No. No, his dad was a little bit fired up. But 2 crew members got suspended for 2 races, and 2 more got suspended for 8 races that were involved in this. They didn't say which crew members where, so that kind of remains under the radar.
It was pretty much all from Stenhouse's crew. I don't think anyone on the 8 crew got.
I don't think anybody on the 8 crew did anything besides legit keep everybody out of the rig, because that was pretty awesome. Again, all right. So before we talk about Charlotte, the Coke 600, the longest mileage race they have in NASCAR, and one of the most prestigious crown jewels that you can have. Let's go. One quick news from NASCAR: the 2025 NASCAR Hall of Fame nominees have been announced. Carl Edwards, Ricky Rudd, and Ralph Moody all made the Hall of Fame. So everybody obviously knows Cousin Carl, and Ricky Rudd, I think, has been on the ballot for a couple years now. Finally gets in. I know of Ralph Moody. I don't. That's one of the historic
I think
guys
that's from the Holman Moody Fords back in the day, like when, because Dad, I'm pretty sure Dad's cars when they ran down in Darlington. I think that's where they got those from.
Okay. So congrats to all those nominations. And Carl was always his career is definitely cut too short, for sure. There's a lot of stuff there and rumors and conspiracies why he's never got a ride again. I wish I would see him in the booth. That'd be really cool. He was really,
very good when he was in the booth the last time.
There was a rumor that he would join Junior in the Amazon booth whenever they do that next year.
They need somebody who's not going to scream, so Carl would be at least an opposite of Junior.
Yeah, well, and they they have Kevin kind of offsetting
Clint.
Clint. I'm telling you, I like Clint at first, but now he's just it's
getting a little old now.
He's getting a little annoying, and Kevin Harvick is fantastic in the booth. He does such a really good job. And I think Mike Joy enjoys having Harvick up there. I think he's kind of over Clint as well. But he did put up with Darrell for like 20 plus years, so I think he can deal with it. All right, so let's get into heading into Charlotte. We're going to give our power rankings heading into Charlotte, and then our NASCAR fantasy, and there are picks. So power rankings heading to Charlotte. Mine didn't really change a whole lot. But I did switch the top because I'm giving kudos to Kyle Larson going there, no practice, didn't even hop in the freaking Cup car at all that weekend, and you don't just do that in the Cup Series, the highest tier racing in the world, and just get fourth. That doesn't happen. You'll start last with no practice, nothing, just get fourth. He's my number one right now. I've got Denny Hamlin back to second. Those two are neck and neck right now. I've got Brad up to third, Chase at fourth, and I put Chris Buescher up into my top 5 now. And he ran so well at the All-Star race. I think he'll race really well at Charlotte. He and Brad are starting to get something clicking, and the Fords seem to be getting some speed now that they found.
Yeah. Well, our top 5 is almost identical. I kept Hamlin at 1 and Larson 2. And like you said, what Larson did was impressive, jumping from going, 232 miles an hour in, 1,600-pound car, hour and a half later, he's in a heavy stock car with no horsepower, and being able to do that without even missing a beat, that's pretty impressive. I do have Brad Keselowski at 3. I moved Joey Logano in at 4. Like I said, Fords have been going pretty good, and that was just so dominating. Yeah, I had to put it in there. And I left Chris Buescher at 5. He's right there going to get a win here soon.
I think whoever would have started on the pole though would have won that race. I don't think anybody's going to pass. If you got clean air, Ty Gibbs surprisingly fell off pretty hard in that race. That was actually a surprise. But other than that, nothing. No one really passed. All right, so our fantasy lineups this week. Finally getting back to it because it was a much needed break that everybody needed. So my starters this week for the Coca-Cola 600, I've got Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Josh Berry, Joey Logano, and in my garage I got Brad Keselowski. And the feature matchups they have this week, they have Kyle Larson versus William Byron. That's a pretty tough one, but I'm going to give William Byron because I don't want to jinx anything this weekend. Jimmy Johnson versus Stenhouse. This threw me off really bad, but I put Ricky Stenhouse in there because Jimmy I think my truck goes faster than his car lately. Kyle Busch versus Ryan Blaney. Kyle Busch has been struggling big time this year. I've got Ryan Blaney. He actually ran really well at the All-Star race. And Joey Logano versus Tyler Reddick. I'm going to edge out Joey Logano. He's in my lineup, and he's got the momentum right now. Momentum is a legitimate thing that carries on in NASCAR. And go ahead with yours, and then we'll talk about the good bets that they have.
All right. So my starters, I have Martin Truex Jr., Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, and in my garage I have Noah Gragson.
You just went all in on this one.
I got a lot of ground to make up. So in my matchups, I also have William Byron over Kyle Larson, Rocky Stenhouse over Jimmy Johnson.
Hell yeah.
Blaney over Kyle Busch, but I picked Reddick over Joey Logano.
That one's probably the toughest. Byron and Larson, yeah.
Byron and Larson,
So the good bet they have this week, they say Kyle Busch. I don't agree with it because they're going based on the history that he's had. He has not had a good year, though. The car has just not been fast. They've not found the speed. But the Coke 600 ends up being a strategic ending because Austin Dillon's won the Coke 600 before. So that's not a shot at Austin Dillon per se, but it was a shot at Austin Dillon. Good bets, Tyler Reddick. I think Toyotas are fast on the mile and a half anyways. It says to avoid Bubba Wallace, but I think if Reddick has a good race, I think Bubba will have a decent race too.
I agree with that.
It says avoid Ross Chastain. I actually agree with that. They just haven't been fast these last few weeks. I don't know what's been going on with Trackhouse, but it's kind of surprising they've been off the pace. And they did say a sleeper is none other than the new lightweight boxer Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Rocky Stenhouse.
Yeah. And I could see that. I think you could definitely see somebody that you would not expect in this race to be contending at the end.
Because a lot of times it does happen on those long races where,
strategy plays a big factor, and it depends if people want to take right side tires and if they want to try to make it on fuel. If it's a fuel mileage race, that plays a big factor. Again, Junior should have won that race. Or was the other Charlotte race? Should have won one of the Charlotte races. He needed a drop.
He needed that much fuel.
If that. Yeah, so anything can happen. We've seen that at the Coke 600. You can lead at lap 500 and you can be wrecked out by lap 600. So it's a big deal. And 2 years ago was the longest Coke 600 that they had. It was like 5.5 hours. It was something insane. That's the one that Larson caught on fire, and that's the infamous one there. All right, that does it for NASCAR fantasy. So the Coke 600, one of the biggest crown jewels in NASCAR, and I think these cars will put on a really, really good show. I'm interested to see how they put on a 600-mile race with this car. I think it'll be really racy, and the weather's pretty good.
The first 300 or 400 miles are probably going to be pretty calm. People are just going to try to get through halfway.
You would think so, but if Stenhouse and Kyle Busch come in contact with each other, there might be some bad blood happening there. So who knows? I think the track is going to be hot and slick to start off with. It's going to be almost 90 all week this week, and you've got you got 4 series racing on the track this weekend. You're going to likely, unless it rains a lot, it's going to be rubbered up very well. There should be multiple grooves. I'm excited for this one. I think it'll put on really good races. The Xfinity and the trucks, the Xfinity race in the afternoon on Saturday, and that is generally a pretty good race too because those cars are sliding around the entire race. And the Truck Series is actually a decent race too. Charlotte just puts on pretty decent races lately in the last couple of years. It was a long time ago, really, really snoozer. Somebody would get out to like a 20-second lead and just stink up the field. You're not going to see that with this car, and I don't think you'll see it with
this
any
car's
of the Xfinity trucks.
been good for the mile and a half.
As bad as they are on the short track, the mile and a half is definitely amazing. Exact polar opposite of what it is. So, right before the picks, any strategy that you can think of that'll probably be playing a big factor into the 600?
The biggest thing, you got to make it 400 miles. You got to be in it to win it. So
400 laps.
400 laps. in my mind, you're probably not going to take any unnecessary risks early. Get to halfway, then start racing. But like you said, you never know. Weather should be okay, so I don't think they're going to be racing to the halfway. The way now the thing is, cars that are good early in the sun may not be so good when the sun goes down, and might see the guy struggling. All of a sudden, those lights kick on, and you see them coming to the front. So it's
And
in my mind, you want to be good for the later runs.
100%.
So the car's definitely going to change. You're going to have to build to be good. You're going to have a lot of adjustability that you can change just by track bars and wedge.
And this is the only race of the season that has 4 stages in it. So that's how big it is. I think it's 100 maybe, or something like that. It should be 100, but I doubt it is, because that makes sense. This episode is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a live entertainment platform rethinking ticketing by caring more about their fans, teams, and venues. They are powering a new open entertainment industries where fans have effortless access to experiences in teams, venues, and shows, and have seamless access to their audiences. With trusted consumer marketplace and innovative enterprise ticketing technology, SeatGeek has what you need for any sporting event. Make sure you use my promo code ZBMedia to get $20 off your purchase from SeatGeek. That is ZBMEDIA from SeatGeek. $20 off. You can't beat that. Check them out now. Get your next concert, sporting event, or anything else from SeatGeek. Back to the show. All right, so let's give our picks. The trucks, Xfinity Cup, ARCA. Shout out to Caleb Costner. He's actually revealing, as we're talking right now, a new paint scheme for this weekend and a new sponsorship as well. So good luck to him in the ARCA Series race this Friday night. Truck Series, who are you going with?
I'm going with your pick from last week. I got Christian Eckes.
I've got the guy that won at Las Vegas, and I think he can get a second career win. I've got Raja Caruth.
Okay.
Xfinity on Saturday afternoon.
So I keep picking this guy. One of these times he's going to let me get it for me. Still looking for his first career win. Joe Gibbs' car. I got Sheldon Creed.
That's funny. That's my exact thoughts too. I've got Sheldon Creed as well.
Okay.
And he actually, I think he ran second there last year, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been Allgaier. So yeah, he goes well.
Look for the junior cars to be fast at Charlotte. They
always are.
They are very good there.
Especially Justin. He's really got it figured out around Charlotte. All right, Cup Series. Who takes this crown jewel home? Defending winners, Ryan Blaney.
So for this one, I got. Love to pick Larson. Not going to jinx him. I got William Byron for this one. Hard to beat Hendricks right across the street from Charlotte Motor Speedway. And Mom's sticking with the Hendrick camp. She's got Chase Elliott.
Well, I'm doubling up on the Hendrick camp, and I'm agreeing with Mom. I've got Chase Elliott, and she got her pick last week right. So it should. Yeah. If anybody's betting, figure out what she's doing in fantasy, and then just go with that. Right. All right, that does it for the NASCAR roundup and preview for this week. Let's head into NHRA to recap the action that they just had this past weekend. The 4 winners this week. Big surprise. I don't think anybody expected this one. Gage Herrera got a win in the motorcycle.
This is my shock face.
He just continues a historic run now.
He's like 0.02 of a second faster than everybody else.
His semifinal was the closest race, and he still was a bike length ahead at the finish. But that was the closest. I think it was against Ellie, if I'm remembering correctly. Dallas Glenn gets another win in the Pro Stocks. He's having a really strong year. Kind of ends Greg Anderson's massive run that he was having. And Matt Hagan, I think you might have picked Matt Hagan for the funny car.
I got picked Cabs.
Oh. Well, Matt Hagan goes back
Force.
Matt Hagan beat out John Force in the finals. It was a really good race. Matt Hagan makes it goes back to back, and Antron, damn it, I got it right finally. Antron Brown didn't let me down, and he wins his Top Fuel race. That was his 70, I think it's the 75th NHRA win.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I don't know if that's just
pro stock motorcycle.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see all of that.
That's popular win. Antron is a very popular driver.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember when he was running motorcycles. We met him at Maple Grove, and he was a cool guy.
Only thing I remember from Maple Grove is I mistakenly walked behind one of the Top Fuels when they fired up the engine. Wouldn't do that again. All right, so that does it for NHRA. This week it was a short recap. They don't have anything coming up this week. They'll be back in action
their problem is
week.
That came on at 10 o'clock Sunday night. I barely made it to the end of the All-Star race.
I will give kudos to their YouTube channel. They actually had highlights of the entire thing. So if anybody wants to check out, just go their highlights of it. And it's good if you find that one and don't scroll down anymore because they label all their videos. Matt Hagan wins this. I'm like, I didn't need to know who won. I want to be surprised. Just say highlights.
Yeah, just be like the Outlaws and Flow. Be like, this track.
And
race highlights.
Exactly. All right, so let's go over IndyCar and preview the Indianapolis 500, which will be, fingers crossed, attending. The weather looks bad, but no one really knows what's going to happen. But let's go over what happened in IndyCar this past week. Penske dominated the entire qualifying. They've dominated the entire May that they've been there.
Just Chevy has dominated the qualifying.
They have. And Penske, they sweep the front row. They got McLaughlin on the pole, Will Power starting second, and Joseph Newgarden in third. But the big news is Kyle Larson starts fifth, the fastest a rookie has ever qualified at the Indy 500. And McLaughlin's the fastest qualifying run that's ever been at the Indy 500.
They say that, but Arie Luyendyk did one at 236 average speed. It was some kind of different rules back then. He had like a larger turbo V8 or something.
Maybe they just kind of swept that one under the rug. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. I think it was Arie Luyendyk. I might be wrong on that one, but yeah, they said that was the fastest qualifying lap ever. And
it was
for sure probably the fastest front row ever.
It was exciting. It was really good. It's also. I can't remember his name. The British announcer that always does this stuff, but he gets all excited when this. Any British announcer does when they're racing. You go in the Formula One, they get excited. But yeah, that really made it really intense. And from what I've seen, everybody's been so impressed with how Larson has adapted to these cars, how he's figured out all these rules in such a short period of time. It does help that he has one of the best IndyCar racers of all time. Teacher. Yeah, Tony Kanaan.
I thought it was funny when they went to full boost for practice, and he went, 234 lap or whatever it was, and you're like, what do you think? He's like, well, thought it'd be faster than that. He goes, I don't know, I just went. He's like, makes a lot of wind noise. He's like,
yeah, you're not going to see a lot of emotion out of Larson. That's not really.
He was like, I guess that's cool. I don't know. It seems like he'd be like, I'd rather whip a sprint car around a quarter mile,
Yeah. Well, very impressive on that. Those cars are good. They're going to be in contention. But the question is, can Chevy continue their dominance in the race, or will the Hondas figure it out during the race?
I think the Hondas are going to race a lot better than they qualify, because you're not going to be racing at 234, so you're going to be racing at 220s.
No, yeah, exactly. And the biggest thing is how does your car race in a pack behind cars, in front of cars, in between? And can you make it last 500 miles? It's 200 lap race at a really big track.
Lot to that, depending on what they can change the fuel mappings in those cars and go in fuel mode or full power mode. It does all kinds of neat stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how Larson handles going through a whole fuel, because they hold like 40 gallons of ethanol.
Yeah.
So by the time you run through 40 gallons of that car is really handling different. Hopefully the weather holds out. He gets some more practice, in traffic with different fuel loads and tire wears and scenarios like that. That's the main thing he's going to need.
Well, like I started off with, weather is the question right now for the Indianapolis 500. No one really knows. It's going to rain at some point, but no one. The way the system is going through the Midwest right now, nobody really knows what's going to happen. It changes literally by hour. I guarantee I will check it right now, and it will be a completely different thing that happens on Sunday.
I've been watching Indianapolis weather, and their whole weather out there is just like really weird. It's sort of similar to Florida here, where they talk about rain. They'll show the map, and all of a sudden it just pops up. I mean, it's you don't see fronts come moving in from west to east or anything. So I don't know where this disturbance is coming from that they're calling for Sunday, but it could go anywhere from like a half an inch of rain over the weekend to 3.5 inches of rain.
Yeah. So well, it's the racing gods that don't want me to see a race because
it seems like it.
I don't know how I got a beautiful day at Martinsville. I don't know. Probably because it was not that long of a drive. They're like, oh, we'll give them this one, but no, we'll make them drive almost 10 hours, and we're gonna make it.
Yeah, we drive up to Port Royal, it rains.
Yeah.
You fly down to Daytona, it rains. We drive Talladega, it rains. Snowed out at Martinsville.
Yeah, well, luckily we didn't even make it there. They canceled that in the middle of the week. All right, so here's the question for you this week. This is where the trivia pops in.
Okay.
How many Indianapolis 500s have been affected by rain?
12.
Right. Probably because you looked at the same thing I did. Now, out of all them, how many have been completely postponed?
3.
Okay, yeah, you damn thing, same damn thing. Yeah, in 1915, 1986, and 1997, and probably 2024.
Yeah, I was gonna say, odds are pretty good. 12 times in 108 years, it's only been postponed.
And the one we decided to
one of them it didn't race till Tuesday.
Yeah, that was 86.
They were letting everybody in the stands for free because nobody was there.
No. It would not be complete until the following Saturday, it says.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. And rain caused the 1940s race to be run under caution for the last 50 laps. That's weird. They just said just coast. We're getting it in, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So rain shortened. I'd be way more inclined to have that.
I want to see the beginning. I want to see the pageantry, the beginning, the start. If they make it to halfway and it rains, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Or if it rains overnight and then they start the track drying. I mean, they're going to have probably about 50 freaking Air Titans there. It's Roger Penske's facility, so they're going to make sure
they're probably already hauling them in from every NASCAR.
They're going to have it ready. It's going to be they're going to be prepared. I can at least say that. It's one of the biggest crown jewels. This is probably number 2 behind the Daytona 500. Maybe number.
Oh, I say this is bigger than the Daytona 500.
Well, worldwide, it's probably more famous. It holds more people. I'm just looking at the data.
But like you were saying, like qualifying, like Mom really doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to that. We sat there.
Oh yeah.
Outside by the pool, we had that sucker on all day. It was a super fun day. That was like very exciting.
I've never fist pumped for freaking any qualifying runs, but as soon as I saw Larson locked into the Fast 12, I'm like, that's because if you start outside the Fast 12, you're probably not going to have a chance to win the Indy 500. That's realistically, that's not going to happen. I think people started in the 20s before and have won it, but that doesn't happen.
Newgarden last year started back fairly far and won it.
Yeah, so now you've got him up there. What's he about to do? So there's a lot of people were pissed off that Penske conveniently swept the front row. They're like, oh, it's a series owned by Roger Penske, a facility owned by Roger Penske. It's his cars, all this. I'm like, just shut up. I don't think it's I don't think it's that big of a conspiracy.
Well, Penske's won more races at Indy than any other owner, so he's kind of got a handle on that place. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think
not real big surprising.
They go all in for that. So let's give our picks for the Indianapolis 500. We might still do our live stream, but we don't know how. First of all, if there's going to be a track left, we don't know if there's signal out there. We'll try to do a live stream for you on Sunday, but it kind of depends on how everything works out. But we were going to give our picks then, but might as well just give our picks now. So, who is your pick for the 108th Indianapolis 500?
I'm going to take relatively low-hanging fruit here. So I got, starts in the middle of row number 1. I got Will Power.
I freaking quit.
Well, then Mom's pick, she's taking inside of row number 1, Mike McLaughlin.
This is stupid. I've got Will Power as well, because you're not going to see me pick Larson.
No, hell no.
No, I don't even. That should have been the other trivia question. I can't remember if a rookie's ever won the Indianapolis 500. I don't think so. I don't think.
Possibly Nigel Mansell.
Rookies.
And we're going to call him rookie. He was Formula One champion.
Oh. Juan Pablo, Elio, and Alexander Rossi, it says.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't Nigel Mansell.
Oh, by the way, if you saw Rossi's interview after qualifying, he's going to be racing the hell out of that car, because apparently Penske's talking a bunch of shit to them. So he definitely wants to beat them in the race. He's got a lot of motivation heading into this one.
Well, fun fact, Hendricks actually approached Penske to get Larson a ride, and then whatever he didn't work out for whatever reason, and they ended up with Arrow McLaren.
Well, I think it's working out fine. McLaren's actually got some special schemes for Formula One as well. I think that's Verstappen's car.
But how many cars?
No, it's not.
Are painted look like Larson's car when you're watching them go around?
Well, the one difference is his has a little more blue, I believe, than the other one, so you can kind of tell.
But shout out to AJ Foyt's car with the dude from the United States who sounded like he's Italian. I can't remember what his name.
Oh, yeah.
But the red, white, and blue flag car, that is badass car. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said that dude was from New England states or something. I was like, what?
And McLaughlin's car is pretty sharp as well, with the old school yellow, they call the yellow submarine.
Yeah, the old Pennzoil Chaparral car.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was definitely cool. All right, so that does it for all of our asphalt. Let's head to dirt. High limit, going over what happened at Outlaw and Utica Rome. Brad Sweet took care of business at Outlaw Speedway, and Rico Abreu gets a win at Utica Rome. These were decent races. These weren't the best races they've had all year. We'll get into a really good race in the Outlaws that they had, but what did you see from these two?
Hey, New York, get a water truck. Outlaw Speedway was
terrible.
Embarrassment. That was a joke and a half of how bad that track was. That was just sad.
Utica wasn't
the
too
racing
terrible.
wasn't terrible, but the track conditions just. Felt like I was pulling dust out of my eyes watching the replay on YouTube. It was that bad. No lights. Tracks are dark.
I forgot what track we were at. I thought we were at Attica watching that.
Yeah, well,
and Attica didn't have near as much
foreshadowing. Attica had I've been talking shit about Attica. They had a great.
That was probably the best looking track I've ever seen Attica have.
Yeah, for sure.
But we'll talk about that here in a second. And then Utica Rome was a better condition track for sure.
It was. You see the sprint cars run on that thing. They're so wide for those modifieds that they only use about half the corner in those things.
Rico was able to make that bottom work, though. He looked so smooth running, and once he got to the lead, there was no turning back. He took off. That car was really hooking up around the bottom, really anywhere he wanted to go, and he was getting through lap traffic, no problem. So kudos to Rico, and that he was kind of going through a little bit of a slump there. So hopefully that breaks it.
Yeah,
for him.
I was saying last week that Zeb Wise and Justin Peck were struggling, and
they raced.
They raced much better. Super slick track. Those guys were all stars running on the slick tracks. They started picking it up a little bit better.
Yeah, Zeb actually got second at the Outlaw Speedway.
I'm sure they watched the podcast and they're like, I'm going to prove these assholes wrong. So.
I mean, the Rain watches our podcast because they said, "Fuck these guys." All right, so High Limit heading to the prestigious Weikert Memorial this weekend. Saturday and Sunday, Memorial Day weekend. It's a tradition that they have $75,000 to win. That is absolutely insane. It's never been never been that high at Port Royal. That is absolutely insane and awesome to see. There's no midweek series because you don't need a midweek series when you're paying $75,000 to win a Sunday race. So rain looks like it should be okay.
Triple.
Yeah. Well, I think that's literally impossible. But what makes this Weikert Memorial so special at Port?
Well, Bob Weikert, you don't know, probably the most iconic sprint car owner probably ever. He was the guy. You either loved him or hated him, or you loved to hate him. He was not short for mixing his words. He was going to tell you exactly how fast that car was going to go, and then there was nothing you can do about it. And he would get the best thing was, and he won a lot. So you're going to get booed a lot. So we be in Victory Lane, they'd be booing him. They'd be like, "F you, Weikert." He's like, "You suck." And they'd be like, "Next week we're giving away a half a beef," and everybody would start cheering. "You're the greatest thing ever." It was the funniest shit you ever seen. So just awesome guy. I mean, I think just about every sprint car driver in the country probably has ran for him one time or another, and almost every mechanic, including myself and Dad, my brother, we all worked for Bob. So it's it's definitely in Pennsylvania you got Bob Weikert and Al Hamilton, so that's definitely the two iconic owners for sure. So it's a fitting tribute. Weikert was always a big fan of Port Royal. So that's a great place to have it. And, and Port Royal's facility anymore is top notch. It's as good as just about as any place.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite up on the Knoxville level yet, but I'm going to say right now in Pennsylvania, that's the nicest facility.
If they can ever luck out with rain.
Yeah, rain just is awful up there.
And it's surprising because we haven't gone to race up there. And
yeah.
It's not, but Port, when it does rain, though, they do a really good job of making sure the track is ready to go for these drivers. So I will say that they do great track preparation. And the cool thing about this,
two grooves. You'll get a bottom if you can stick down there and bottom, and you will see the guys on the wall.
Yeah, and I think you'll see multiple lanes here, and I think you'll see. Well, the cool thing about this weekend, you'll see the throwback car for Danny Dietrich. He'll be racing
He'll be in the Weikert 29.
Yep, that's always cool to see back on the track. So I think it might make him a little more motivated to race a little bit better. He goes around Port pretty well, but these high limit guys are definitely no joke. And
Sunshine came in and ran the show last
week.
Did
anybody doubt that he was going to win that race? No.
Yeah, he was. No. He was fast for sure.
Yeah, well, was he that fast, or he was just beating?
Well, compared to everybody else, he was.
Corey Day, I think, crashed, so he wasn't in any type of contention for that one.
Yeah, just right now, the Pennsylvania regulars, outside of we'll put Macri and probably Brent Marks in there, are just not as fast as these guys right now.
Well, they're the high limit regulars, so if anybody's going to win for technically the posse, it's weird. Are you technically the posse if you're racing for high limit full time? I still say so, but they have the two best chances. Yeah, I mean, if they win,
if you want to go technical, the best chance for a posse to win is going to be Lance DeWeese. Got more,
outside, nobody around.
It's at times he's been pretty good. Other times it's not so good. So.
Yeah.
Mike Wagner, Logan Wagner hasn't been that fast in the 69K.
No.
Right now.
No. So
they can't. They seem to race okay once you get to the A main, but like heat races, like he started.
They end up starting around 12th in every feature, and
he started like 4th in the heat race, and dropped right back to like 5th or 6th. So
of course, Tyler Courtney started like 10th the last race and went up to the front in like 3 laps. So
and Tyler Courtney, he was by far the fastest car there. It wasn't even close.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's give our picks for the 2 nights at the Bob Weikert Memorial. Night number 1, who do you got?
Night 1, I got Anthony Macri for night 1. And Saturday night, big money,
Sunday night.
Has won all the big money so far. I got Brad Sweet.
It's Sunday night. It's Saturday night and Sunday night.
Oh, yeah, Saturday and Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, well, we have one of the same picks, but the first night I've got Tyler Courtney. He's got the momentum there, figured out the track a little bit. I mean, it was a shocker if he wins. I know. And the big money race, I agree with you. He just pulls out all the cards when those races are coming. I got Brad Sweet as well. All right, well, that does it for the high limit races. Let's head into the World of Outlaws, and let's recap what we saw at Attica, which is probably one of the best races I've seen. Attica's been putting on great races, but they changed the camera view of where everything is, so you can actually see the races this time, and it wasn't nearly as dusty as it was. Track looked great.
Said they put down a whole bunch of new clay, and it was great. The surface was nice. It was racy, multiple grooves.
Last lap, last corner pass. Buddy Kofoid gets the win over Carson Macedo.
He was leading early, then Macedo passed him, and he stuck with him the whole time, and then managed just to squeak by, then coming off a turn 4 of the line. That was a great race. That might have been one of the best outlaw races I've seen so far.
It was really good. Buddy Kofoid's been knocking on the door to get a win, and he finally gets it done. Hats off to Attica, really great track.
I've been calling it a shithole, but that was I said it was. They raced well even though the shitty conditions, and
it raced well with good conditions.
They could have a decent surface and still have a great race.
Yeah, it looked good, and I don't know really why, if their weather during the week played a factor.
Well, they said they got new clay, so I think
that helps. That does help.
It helped hold some moisture in the thing. It wasn't real dusty.
Yeah, and you could, like I said, you could actually watch the highlights with actually seeing cars. And then the night 2, it was just a dominant performance at Sharon Speedway by David Gravel. Goes flag to flag to win that race.
Yeah, that was more of a typical outlaw race that you expect. It starts on the. Now I don't know what happened on the very first start. The very first start, Gravel did a wheelie. I forget who was beside him, and they threw the yellow and they penalized that guy. So all of a sudden, you give Gravel 2 shots at it. That was,
Yeah, I don't know.
First start would have went, he probably was not going to win that race.
Maybe it was a slight jump or something. I don't know. Everything's computerized, so they probably saw something.
Yes, I don't know. Sometimes it seems a little convenient.
Well, that's David Gravel's 7th win of the year, so he's definitely pulling away in the point standings. And obviously, and we said it, he was probably going to be the favorite to win the championship anyways, because Brad Sweet's no longer in the series. But can he maintain this? I mean, it's all about everything in the World of Outlaws starts now, really heading into the summer. How can you race in the summer at these slick tracks consistently? Because if you have one bad race, that next person right behind you in point standings can catch right up to you, because I think you can make up like 100 points or something at most on somebody during a race. So anything can happen. Let's preview what we got. Atomic Speedway Friday and Saturday, and then you have the Memorial Day race that they always have. It's at Fremont Speedway this year.
Yeah, so Atomic Speedway used to be called KC Raceway. It's in Chillicothe, Ohio. They brand it as the world's fastest 3/8 dirt track, and it probably is. I actually didn't think it was quite a 3/8 mile. It's high banked. It's a little. We used to call it a little mini Eldora. It definitely a fast track. I think that's going to be a fun show. There's for a 3/8 mile, the track record's rate about 10 seconds flat. So they are hauling ass around that track.
Yeah.
So hopefully the high speeds don't make a bad race. Sometimes slower races actually do get a little better, but they are going to be in live traffic pretty quick on that one.
For sure.
Usually the top's the fastest way to go there. So if you want to see fast, getting around fast, that's definitely one to go see.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Last year they had great races. Hopefully Nate Reeser, who we had on the show before, he's one of the local racers there. Hopefully he's able to make the event. He made it one of the nights last year. Can't remember if it was All-Stars or Outlaws, but good luck to him. But yeah, and talk about Fremont as well.
So Fremont Speedway, it's a little quarter mile, pretty flat track. It's, one of those slick, dusty Ohio tracks. But again, it normally puts on a pretty good race. It's usually one, if you can hook the bottom, you're going to be really good, because not everybody's going to be able to. You can get in on the bottom. Getting off the bottom on down the straightaway is going to be key on that one if you're going to run the bottom. So it's kind of a wide little track. So the outside gets pretty far around with not a whole lot of banking to it.
It looks like this is the first time they're there in like a decade. I saw 2014 was one of them.
Was that one the last time the Outlaws were there?
It looks like that's the last
like,
Outlaws.
Rick Ferkel Memorial Race or something like that.
I think so. That sounds right. And you were talking about slower races make really good races. This is one of the slower tracks. You can't just balls it in around the outside. It's going to be a little bit slower and a little meticulous with everything. But if you can balls it on the outside and go around them, then you have the advantage. But from what I saw, it's a very technical racetrack to get around it.
Funny story about this track. Back in the 80s with Wolfgang in the Weicker car, he crashed at Eldora. I don't think it was the night before. I think it was 2 nights before for Ohio Speed Week, and actually had a fracture in his arm. So we took off the next night, and the following night was at Fremont Speedway. So we took a power steering unit out of Jack Hodenschild's car, because Jack, just a little guy, which you could turn that thing with just one hand, and Wolfgang drove that thing basically with one arm and one. And Dad may or may not have gotten in a fight at the pits. I'm just saying.
With who?
Somebody called my dad a stupid ass race fan.
That's surprising that ticked him off like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think my mom was even there. It's one of.
Well, I mean,
take off.
Y'all about to say that I could see her getting it.
Yeah.
Dad's
got it. Yeah, everybody sees Dad pretty quiet. He's he can get a temper.
He's something small like that. You wouldn't think that would tick him off too much. But. All right, so Atomic Speedway, 2 nights. Who do you got on night 1 and night 2?
Let's see here. Lost my Outlaws. Oh, so yeah, Atomic Friday night. I'm gonna go with the Ohio boy. I got Sheldon Heidenshield Friday, and Saturday I'm going to go with your dark horse of the season. I got Gio Celsi.
All right. Well, for Friday night,
I got Sheldon until he wins one.
Yeah. Friday night, I've got the guy who just barely lost this past week to Buddy Kofoid. I've got Carson Macedo, and then Saturday night, I've got Donnie Schatz.
Yeah, my thought was I was going for wide open ballsy drivers for Atomic Speedway. So that was my criteria on this one.
Well, Schatz is going to be top 10, top 5 everywhere.
He's just good everywhere.
Yeah. And the Memorial Day race at Fremont, who do you have?
So I said slick and dusty, run the bottom. I got Donnie Schatz on that one.
I said if you can figure it out and you can balls it in, I've got the guy that can balls it in. I've got Sheldon Hodenshield on this one. All right, well, that does it for this week, and we'll get back to the top 5 fun segment after next week. We'll announce the top 5 starting next week, and then the following week we'll have our top 5. Just give me a little bit of time to figure that one out. But we will try to do something at Indy. Hopefully we can get out to Indy without any terrible weather. It can rain a little bit. It can rain all at once Sunday night around 7 o'clock. Rain, you can tornado. I don't care. Just get the damn
I'll take from 4 o'clock on. I'll be fine.
Yeah, they could probably get the race done by 3:30.
It starts at what, 11 something their time up there.
Yeah, 11:45 their time is green flags, 12:45 Eastern time. So yeah, you can definitely. I think it's 3.5 hours is the general time it's going to take for that. So the fastest one was just under 3 hours, but yeah.
It might not even be that. It might even, because NASCAR run them in 3.5 hours, a 500-mile race. So these guys might be a little quicker than that. It might be under 3.
Well, no, the fastest one was like 2:57 or something.
Was it really? Okay.
Yeah, but you got to think if they have a caution, they'll take a while on caution, but they do count all the laps. Like there's no green white checkers or anything like that, so we got to remember all that. If you have 5 laps, if there's a caution for 5 laps to go, and it's over. They take that long.
Yeah. You might as well start heading out unless it's your guy winning.
Yeah, and then I'm not. If Larson's something, beer will be drunk. All right, well, if you guys like this, make sure you share it. Check out the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow anywhere you get your podcast. Follow anywhere on social media. And we'll be back at it next week. Talk to you about our Indy experience. We'll at least have some footage on the YouTube channel of Indy, whether it's live or just a later some footage that we put together in some sort of video.
Grilling for breakfast and drinking and.
Yeah,
it starts early, so we gotta
make sure we have umbrellas and umbrellas and beer. That's priority right now. So have all that. So we'll see you guys next week after a fun week of racing coming up.
All right, see you from Indy.